Hello, and welcome to the Insights podcast series. I'm your host, Anand Daniel. Today, we're bringing to you a new episode in the Future of X mini series, in which we discuss and try to decipher the advancements and innovations that are underway in sectors and verticals that are fast evolving at this time. As the world changes because of the pandemic and its lingering after effects, the future becomes especially pertinent. In a lot of ways, we're already in the future, and this series is an attempt to understand and make sense of everything that's rushing at us. We have a great episode for you today. I hope you enjoy it. I have with me today Darpan Sanghvi, co-founder and CEO of MyGlamm. We just announced a fundraise of $71 million dollars from a group of investors and led by Accel. MyGlamm is an amazing company, one of India's only true omni-channel beauty and personal care house of brands, and they have been a trailblazer in an industry which has now really started to take off. We will be talking to Darpan not only about his MyGlamm journey, but also about the new models around BPC that are gaining traction. We also want to understand how D2C is different from traditional e-commerce and why that is important right now, especially as more brands emerge aiming to disrupt this landscape. With me, as we discuss this, is a familiar face, Prashanth Prakash, my partner at Accel. Prashanth has worked with a number of other D2C brands, including Bluestone, Luffs, and Fingerlicks. Super excited to have his views as well. Let's dive right in. Welcome to the podcast, Darpan. Yeah.
Hey, Anand, thank you for having us here. Super excited to be on this podcast.
Prashanth, welcome back to the podcast.
And great to be here again, my third or fourth time. Enjoy it every time. Hope to have a good one.
Awesome. Cool, Darpan. So I want to start with a question to you. I know in my house, at least, I have three girls, my wife and the two kids, all of them use MyGlamm. So we're very well familiar with the product. But for those who don't know, maybe a quick overview of what is MyGlamm. Yeah.
Of course, Anand, thanks. So, MyGlamm is India's fastest growing direct to consumer beauty brand. We're building a master brand across beauty, makeup, skincare, hair care. And we have the highest social media reach and highest new customers acquired of any brand in India. And a little secret, we're going to be going global soon. That's what MyGlamm is.
Awesome. Awesome. That's the first release here. Great. And then you'll start working on men also, I'm guessing. Right?
Yo, well, I need it for sure.
Awesome. So maybe let's start with some of your background, like a little bit about, tell us about yourself and what led up to MyGlamm. Right? We'll spend the next 5 minutes hearing about that. Yeah.
Sure, Anand. Anand, so I'm a mechanical engineer from Pune, and never thought I'd be in the glam business when I was getting a mechanical engineering degree. I got my MBA from ISADE Business School, Barcelona, and then the University of Texas at Austin in a dual degree program. Worked in different parts of the world for a few years before returning back to India in 2008, 2009. When I got back to India, Anand, I don't know, I think I've always had this innate fascination and an innate sensibility towards brands, just in general, towards brands in general, right? And so when I came back to India and I wanted to do something on my own, I gravitated towards seeing, brands in India. And I realized that there were very few brands in India in general. There were a lot of international brands that had not come to India. And I thought that maybe there's an opportunity to bring some well-known international brands to India. At that point of time, I didn't have the experience to think that I could start my own brand. And so I thought the easier route to get into the brands business was bring well-established global brands to the Indian consumer. And that's how I got into the brands business. I started cold calling brands all over the world, saying, hey, I'm a kid from India and I'd love to bring a brand to India. And that was a lot of fun. And the first brand that we were able to convince to bring to India was L'Occitane. L'Occitane, incredible beauty brand. And we got the master franchise to bring L'Occitane spas to India. And that sort of gave me it was a dart that hit on the board where it gave me a focus that, okay, beauty is the path that, I'm going down because I got a great anchor brand, L'Occitane, to start my entrepreneurial journey with. So I started my career as an entrepreneur in 2010 when I got the master franchise for L'Occitane spas. And I started my first spa in 2010. We then went on to add more brands and build our portfolio. So we got Clarins and we did Clarins Spa in India. We got Warren Tricomi Salon from New York. We did a licensing deal with Elle Magazine and did Elle Spa and Salon. And over the next 5 years, 6 years, I launched about 25, 30 spas across India, also the United States and the Middle East. And, that's what really got me into the beauty business because I was on the ground. A beauty service business is a business where you're on the ground interacting with consumers. And as I had a portfolio of brands, I realized a customer perceives a L'Occitane very differently from a Clarins and an L. Why? Why does she pay differently for these different brands, right? While we're providing those beauty services, there was a gap there. So it was towards that, where we started thinking that, hey, I've learned, a lot about brands. I've learned a lot about beauty brands. I've learned a lot about this Indian consumer when it comes to the beauty category. And maybe there is an opportunity here. So at that point of time, I actually sat down with the senior folks at L'Occitane because they were my first partner. My first master franchise partner was L'Occitane, and we developed a close bond with them. Everything I told L'Occitane I'll do, when they took the gamble and gave me the master franchise for India, I did. So when I went back to them and I said, look, I think there's an opportunity to do something in beauty in India. There aren't enough brands. The international brands that are here are not fulfilling what the Indian consumer really wants, and none of them are tech enabled. So the first $1 billion revenue is over $1.5 billion. So great global brand. And when I spoke with Andre, the vice chairman of L'Occitane, and I asked Andre, if you had technology, what could you do different? What problems would you love to solve as this big global beauty brand? And he gave me a whole laundry list of items, right? And I said, okay, now that gives me some direction. I understand Indian consumer. I understand her beauty needs are separate. Let me figure out how do I solve her beauty needs, and let me see how I can build a massive scalable beauty company using technology. Understanding from a global leader who's built his business brick and mortar on what his pain points are. And that's sort of how the genesis of the MyGlamm that you see today, that is direct to consumer, leveraging social media, leveraging peer-to-peer advocacy, building products highly relevant, highly agile, great velocity of launches, and master brand. That's the MyGlamm that you see today came about from all this stuff that happened over the last few years.
Thank you. Thanks for that quick background summarizing how you got there. Prashanth, love to get your thoughts on the space broadly on beauty, personal care, or maybe even just broadly on brands. How do you look at it, and then specifics to BPC? What are the unique things here in this particular sector?
So, Anand, I have had a little bit of a similar affinity to brands and creative stuff. Having started out with the early days with Netcraft, which in those days was all about building a digital online presence for brands, and then the whole vertical e-commerce thing, Anand, which happened post Flipkart, where there was in fact, long before Nykaa, Accel had invested in a similar business, right, in the early days of e-commerce. So I think
there's Urban Touch, right?
Urban Touch, yes, Anand, you
yes,
got
yes.
Urban Touch. But then, of course, there was Bluestone and there was multiple other brands which we invested in. So brands have been something that I've always been looking for. But like Darpan said, they've just not been enough action in terms of entrepreneurs, the tech entrepreneurs and the new age entrepreneur never thought it was sexy enough business or it was a tech enough business. But I think with the whole consumption of these brands online and what data could do for some of these brands, I think a lot changed. And I think that understanding of what data can do, I'm sure always data could have done a lot, but I think entrepreneurs never understood how to leverage that online data and then use that to build, accelerate, and get momentum for your brands. And I think to some extent, Gaurav was able to do that in Bluestone. And even today, while they have tens of 20, 30, 40 stores online, but the overall customer experience still is driven by this data engine that they were able to create. So it doesn't matter if you're omni-channel online or just offline. So I think among all the categories, BPC, I think resonated more, I guess, both with entrepreneurs and investors for 2 to 3 reasons. I think one, I think it had some characteristics like the type of repeats that you were able to achieve with this were very different than what otherwise people always thought. I mean, you would most other brands you would probably have 2, 3, maximum 4 purchases a year, but here you could achieve 2 to couple purchases every month. So I think that was very attractive. The whole logistics characteristics and the weight logistics characteristics were something that really were favorable, and margins, right? A combination of these three, I think, were the primary drivers from a business construct perspective. But from a macro perspective, I think a lot has changed in the last decade or 2 decades, right? We were always a deficit in terms of how much consumption of BPC was happening in this country. Even when you compare it to an emerging country like Indonesia, we are probably one third or even less than 1/3 when it comes to our consumption. So I think both the macro long-term trends in BPC and the specific aspects of BPC that lend themselves to build a very healthy online business and a very profitable online business, I think helped gravitate both capital and great entrepreneurs at the same time. And among all the brand categories, I think you'll see that there's a lot more momentum here than anything else.
Thanks, Prashanth. From an entrepreneur's point of view, how did you navigate this? You walked us through that journey where you started with the spas and got in there. What did you launch with? And maybe in layman's terms, beauty and personal care, like what belongs in beauty, what belongs in personal care? Like I'm sure many people have this question. And how did you figure out what to launch with the first few years for the founders or too soon to be entrepreneurs listening in?
Yeah. So October 2017 is where the MyGlamm that you see today was born. I think it was 5th October, the day we launched our products. And the product line initially was just makeup. Makeup falls within beauty. So beauty, you would take beauty as primarily being cosmetics, which is makeup, and maybe some premium high efficacy skincare. Personal care broadens the scope a lot more, is where then you will see your face washes, your bath and body, your hair care, hygiene. All of these categories then start falling within personal care. Now, we decided to start with makeup because we always thought that, it's very interesting. Makeup brands are not built on benefit. Makeup brands are built on an emotion. When you see a marketing for a personal care brand, it's about a benefit. It will be about this ingredient does this to my hair. This ingredient does this to my skin, right? That is more personal care, very product focused marketing there. And then with that, you gain credibility and then you can expand further. Cosmetics is harder because really the benefit is transformation, which everybody is saying the same thing. Everybody uses makeup for transformation, right? So it's very hard for a single product to say that it's a product, it's a more emotion-led benefit over there. And cosmetics is something that you apply on your face. So we always believed that if you crack cosmetics, it's much easier to then expand as a master brand. And that's why our launch started with makeup. And this was a great insight that I got from the L'Occitane folks, was they said the easiest thing to do in makeup is launch a well-priced, affordable lipstick to gain scale. They said, don't do it in your year one. They said, in your year one, launch expensive face products, because the consumer will start thinking of you as a brand that is, oh, this is a great brand for my face. The minute she thinks that, then she's comfortable buying anything else from you. So that first year was very interesting because my biggest seller, my number one product was what we call the Total Makeover FF Cream, which was a 5-in-1 palette of a primer, compact, concealer, SPF, and foundation, along with color correctors. There was no product like that in the market, right? And it was for 1,450 rupees. New brand, no offline presence, selling online, and you're trying to sell her something to put it on her face and try it for 1450 rupees, right? We went down, that was the tough path to choose, right? We were able to choose that path because our board, our investors, L'Occitane, they backed us to do it, right? And that really went a long way, because after, when after that we launched other stuff, sales just flew. And consumer perception till date in people's mind is MyGlamm is a great premium brand and they have awesome face products, right? And we've successfully been able to build that. And now we've built everything else around that. So my journey year one was highly differentiated products. We made sure every product that we launched was a first time in India, and premium products with more of a focus on face. We knew right away that we needed to have more brands within the portfolio, right? So that allows us to have pricing flexibility, right? MyGlamm, a lipstick was for 600 bucks. A face product was for 1,000 rupees. We, within 12 months of launching MyGlamm, we then launched Lit by MyGlamm, where a lipstick was 300. And we launched Manish Malhotra by MyGlamm, where a lipstick was 950 rupees. And we straddled the entire spectrum. That was another very interesting thing, learning. That was an intuitive belief we had, that because we're DTC, as we are able to offer, go up and down the spectrum, we're able to acquire not only more customers, but we're able to cross-sell to the existing base a lot more. And that hypothesis was proven within the first 3 months of going from one brand, MyGlamm, to now Lit by MyGlamm, and Manish Malhotra by MyGlamm. It accelerated our customer acquisition and it doubled our repeats right away for us. We were still within makeup then, right? So look at the journey. Started with makeup, cosmetics, beauty, premium face products, a year, and highly different. All our products, you pick our products, right? I mean, and all the products are based on deep consumer insights, always, right? So we realized brows. Okay, brows is a very interesting category. Women are still discovering it. We had an amazing product. The first brow powder in India was launched by us, but we realized that there is some resistance to try it, because they're like, I don't want to spend so much just to try a brow. I've never done brows before. So what's the other product that every Indian woman buys is a eyeliner. So we took the brow powder, and on the other end, we put a liquid eyeliner, and we made it a 2-in-1 product. It became a bestseller again, right? Because consumer found it easy to try the brow product, because she's like, I can at least use the eyeliner, right? If I, so for that price, and that worked for us. So we had this kind of differentiation in all our products. By month 12, more brands. Now Lit was the lipstick brand, right? Lit was the one that got you scale, right? And each of these brands were mirroring different consumer personas. We had in-depth research that we did. We did ethnographic immersions, a lot of fun stuff to understand who is a queen bee. Why is a fashionista different from a sort of a queen bee, or the traditional homemaker Indian woman who's juggling multiple things at once, right? And once you mirror those once you understand those consumer personas, the brands and the product portfolio mirrored what that persona was and needed from there. So journey, MyGlamm, makeup, highly differentiated premium range. Month 12 went much larger in the range, with luxury with Manish Malhotra and more mass mastige with Lit. Lipstick started flying off the shelf for us, but consumers didn't think of us as the brand with a 300 rupee lipstick. Consumers thought of us as the premium brand that also has Manish Malhotra and has the 300 rupee lipstick. I'll start with the 300 rupee lipstick and one day graduate to Manish Malhotra, right? And we started building that journey for our consumers. So that was sort of 12 months. The next 12 months was really scale up for us. So if I see Jan 2019, so October 17 launch, October 18, November 18, expansion of portfolio with 2 more brands. Jan 2019 to December 2019, the journey was all about scale. So we grew 4x in that period. The other important thing, Anand, here is we were the only guy who was truly direct to consumer, meaning the transactions came on our platform, right? The other new age brands that were getting built out were getting built out primarily on marketplaces. We were getting 95% of our online revenue on our platform. And that was another thing that allowed us to build master brand, meaning have multiple brands for us, because easy to communicate with her, right? She's on your app. You can send her notifications. You understand what she's browsing. You can, retarget her accordingly. So that was the other differentiated piece. When I scaled up in 2019, from Jan 2019 to December 2019, it was all on our platform, which was pretty incredible. So, and then COVID hit for us. That was the year we were expanding into personal care. We did successfully expand into personal care. Personal care today has already become 25% of our revenues. And that was also the year where we, put sort of brought to life our content to commerce strategy. So 2020 is when we sort of mastered content to commerce, social media, discovery on social media, influencers, and all of that. And that's how we reached today, where we have the largest social media reach in India. We touch 50% of the women online on Facebook and Instagram every month organically through our content plays. We understand them hopefully better than anyone else. And then we are able to serve them. So that's sort of been our journey from today being a content to commerce leader, a master brand across makeup, skincare, hair care, personal care, bath and body, and being direct to consumer, where we're acquiring nearly 250,000 customers a month on our own platform.
Awesome. Thanks for walking through that whole journey. Prashanth, love to hear your thoughts from an investor perspective. How do you look at this? What do you like? And any comments on what you heard?
No, I think there's many things that Darpan has got right, and that's why we, of course, invested in him. But but if I had to pick a couple things that he's really done well, I think it's the whole content to commerce engine that he has very diligently built, both through organically what they could do and also by getting the best of what is out there in the ecosystem to integrate and synergize with his vision of this commerce. It's never easy. This content is always easy to, everybody talks about it, but to really have that affect the CAC in the way that Darpan has been able to have it affect his CAC and do it at scale, I think is something that is very unique and special to what his team has been able to achieve. The second aspect of the idea of a portfolio or house of brands for different demographics, different personas, and so on. Again, very easy to always say, that should be the strategy. But I think Darpan and his team have very methodically built first the engine to do these brands at a good pace, and then get an understanding from their data and from what their personas are consuming, and do it in a creative manner to ensure that you also don't want to confuse your customer too soon, right? So you just have to be extremely methodical about how you kind of release these products and make sure that the customer can absorb them and do it in the right cadence, so to speak. So I think that's the second thing that not many brands get it right, and I think that his team have got it right. I think there are still other areas. I mean, there is still room, both even if you keep aside global expansion, which Darpan wants to get to next, even just within India, I think the personal care space has still a lot of headroom, and I think they're very early in that space, and the skincare space is also very nicely transforming into more efficacy-based products, and I think there is. I think Indians are very value conscious, and just like in beauty, they need to see value and a difference very quickly. I think even in skincare, there will be room for multiple solution-specific products that we can expand into, and there's a lot of potential there for Darpan to expand.
So maybe a question that comes is like, there's all these large brands, Unilever's, P&G's, they're already a house of brands. What makes it difficult, or what's the advantage a startup has over something like this? Maybe Prashanth, love to hear your perspective, and then go to the entrepreneur's perspective on this one.
Yeah, Anand, this is very interesting, right? So because even globally, in the US, I mean, the difference between the US and India is, in India, there seems to be a different acceleration cycle fueled by venture money, right, and brand building. But US has been organic brand building over decades. So India maybe has 10, 20, 30 decent brands in the BPC space, and some of them early. But in the US, there are 100 plus brands built over the last 2 decades, right? And there'll be names that will be 50, 100 million that I and you would not have heard. It's such a nuanced market in the US, right? But even there, I think some of the larger players have always gone for an acquisition model, because I think they can do few things well as a large company, right? You as a large company, you can scale, you can leverage your distribution muscle, and especially the traditional offline distribution muscle. And I mean, while the whole digital, way of doing things was something that they were trying to apply for their current businesses and to make sure their current brands are relevant. It took time, I think, for them to, say, I mean, because you don't want your current customers be out of touch with you digitally, right? So their emphasis and focus for these larger brands is, how do I still make my current brands reach the audience everywhere, right? And so the digital transformation of the existing brands is a big focus for these large companies, and they need to build very different engines within their organization to be able to get product cycles less than 6 months, 1 year. And I think the best they've gotten to is like a year, which is still like twice what Darpan's team probably is able to do, right? So I think that there's a challenge there. And the way they have tackled this, Anand, is that they've gone for an accelerator model. So they said, you know what, we just can't do all of this in-house, but let's become accelerators, let's become enablers. All of them have some form of doing this through small funds, through accelerators. Some of it is working out, but some of it is always a challenge, because there is this whole challenge for younger brands to be able to even do a transaction with these large companies. The way they work on term sheets, your agreements, doesn't give the younger brands a lot of comfort. So while a few things have been enabled through their ability to participate through equity or other forms in this market, but I think there is still a wide open space, Anand, where the younger brands and the capital that is available for these younger brands makes this a lot more fertile ground for new brands to emerge than any of these brands coming in from the established incumbents.
Got it. Darpan, anything to add to that? Your thoughts on the same? Anything you disagree with, or like, love to hear your perspective here?
No, I think Prashanth has covered it really well. The couple of things I could just add on to that, right, is data, right? I think that's one of the biggest strengths for the large CPG companies is their distribution, right? And what they just don't have is data, and data really is today's distribution, right? The strength.
Sorry,
of data
why don't they have the data? They've been there around, so they have millions of customers.
They are just they're not connected with their customer. Transactions are happening for them through third parties that they don't have access to, whether it's retail, whether it is online marketplaces, versus, I mean, a typical split. You pick up a large CPG company in India and you take their beauty brand and you see their split of sales. it would be about 90% offline, 10% online, and the 10% online is all on third-party marketplaces. So where are they connected with their customer beyond a focus group that they can do, right? Here with us, when at scale, you are connecting with millions of women every month, you are seeing data in real time in terms of trends, in terms of likes, dislikes, in terms of your product, right? And things that need to change and what they want. And I think this data piece is what is one of the biggest things that is missing from them, right? They're still trying to get. I mean, a digital strategy for a large CPG company used to be, I'll start selling on Amazon, right? I mean, that's the journey that they're on right now, right? So you can imagine how much they need to catch up on. And then there is a critical DNA issue. They've done certain things great, and that's why they've become where they are. But the world is evolved, right? Internet, social media has become the way for consumers to discover everything. And so data plays a super, super critical role in this. And I think that is one of the other areas where we really have leapfrogged ahead of them, have a clear edge, which is not something that's going to be easy for them to, catch up to very quickly. I think that, along with, of course, the agility that Prashanth spoke of, both of these make it extremely, and of course, and they've never built a new brand in the last 10 years. That's the other thing, right? In the BPC category. In the BPC category, they've always acquired something, right? They never built it on their own. So that goes back to the DNA. So that's where I think those are some of the challenges that they have, and that's the opportunity for us.
Prashanth, you wanted to add anything to that?
No, Anand, I was just saying that it will be interesting to see how the offline muscle that some of these people have, how will they leverage that, right, to come up with a faster brand cycle while they can't compete with us online? Will they be able to demonstrate the ability? I think some of them have started to be acquisitive. I'm talking in the Indian context right now. So because that was the moat, right? That was their moat. So there was this one guy who was the king of South Indian distribution. There was a guy who was to be the king of North Indian distribution, and they could take any brand and push it out there and do that very fast. So they've started to bite at some of these brands in the men's grooming space and few of these other areas. So it'll be interesting to see how these two will converge. So how will these old world and new world converge in India, and who will get leverage of what will be an interesting thing to watch.
That's interesting. Oh, maybe that is me. Darpan, do you distribute offline as well? We didn't talk about it. We talked about your direct to consumer and then the online journey. Maybe can you touch upon that, and are you omni-channel, and how do you think through that?
Absolutely. So, to Prashanth's point as well, and building on that, we've always believed right from day one that in India, if you have to be a brand of scale, you also have to be offline. That is where the visibility happens. The customer touches and feels your product, and there is no escaping that. So from day one, we've been working, and that's the tough part, right? Scaling up offline is not easy. That was the moat for all the big guys. It is the moat. It is still the moat for all the big guys, right? And that is the learning curve for us, right? We've made substantial headway there. We today are in about 15,000 point of sales. A very aggressive target, which is by this Diwali, we're actually going to double it. And we genuinely believe that offline, you cannot escape it. It needs to be there. However, how do you bring your DTC philosophy in offline, right? So we created an app for our beauty advisors. So when she's interacting with her customers, right, she's able to, when the customer buys, she's able to view the customer's purchase history on the app. The app can recommend to the beauty advisor based on even the customer's browsing behavior on the website that, hey, she was looking at this red lipstick, give that to her. And she typically likes a 15% discount. Not only that, you're allowing consumers to say that, hey, browse online or buy online, you're getting points, redeem your points offline, right? So can you make that even more seamless? Even if you buy a product offline from us, you still become a part of our content CRM. So the next day, you'll get a tutorial on the product that you just bought, right? So there are all these little things that we're trying to bring into the offline experience for the consumer as well, right? On the app, Can she, first have a virtual consultation with the BA and then right then and there look for what's the BA closest to her at a store, book it right then and there, and go next day to the store, right? Or if she's swatched some products at the store, liked the colors, but she doesn't want to buy that time, right? Because women, they're trying, they're exploring, and they take the purchase decision, right? Can she wish list that on the app based on what she swatched offline? Right. So all of these things are sort of things that we're trying to bring in the online, marrying online to offline. But to answer your question, Anand, offline presence is a must. Offline presence is something we're working on very, very hard and very, very carefully, because that's something very different from an online business. It has a lot of challenges. But at the same time, we're trying to figure out how does our DTC DNA, how does our tech, how does all of that make this experience more unified and differentiated for the consumer?
Got it. That's super helpful. That also leads me to another question. What's been the COVID impact in this industry? Maybe broadly, if you can touch upon that. What has happened here?
Sure. Look, when COVID first hit last year, in March, everything went down to zero because we were that time in cosmetics. We were, we were not an essential item. And COVID, and if I look globally as well, right? The first couple of months, everybody was in shock, didn't know what was going on. What was very interesting, and we're grateful that our category globally withstood COVID much better than any other category. And I was lucky that again I had L'Occitane guiding me on how their sales started evolving in China and US once after the initial impact of COVID. It was very encouraging to see. It was not just India, and it was not just digital first brands, but it was beauty brands in general that really started to come out of COVID strongly. If I look at the category BPC, right, beauty and personal care really grew tremendously. I mean, like 2x, 3x, I mean, in high multiples, because, women had more time on their hands. They were at home. When you're at home, even though you're working, you're still able to take care of your skin, your hair, versus when you're out at work or in the office or doing your chores outside the house. And that led to a large spike there. On the beauty bit, we realized that beauty was that instant gratification that got a smile to her face while in the midst of COVID. So she might not be buying that, expensive dress, right? Because she's not going out, but she's still buying that new pink lipstick because for 300 rupees, she had a smile on her face, even though she's wearing a mask. The most counterintuitive thing we would have all imagined. We all started thinking we need 10 more eye products, etc. when the masks came about, right? But lipstick sales have grown, right, through COVID as well. So we were lucky that the BPC category in general has withstood the COVID storm really, really well. I think the category itself has seen growth, and guys like us who had large content to commerce plays because consumers were consuming more content, learning more, getting more transactions than on our platform. Guys like us who were more DTC on the app, where we had tools like a virtual try-on tool. Our adoption of the tool went up 2x post-COVID, right? Where women were trying lipsticks on the app, playing with it, and then ordering. So things like that, we benefit more than a traditional beauty brand because we were built out. But in general, category was strong. Category grew for everybody, and we being digitally first, DTC grew faster than others.
Got it. Prashanth, any comments on that? You've worked with a couple of other companies as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would agree largely with what Darpan is saying. I mean, it's a little bit counterintuitive, but I can also see that personal care, for example, is quite it's a no-brainer that people have more time on their hands to dedicate to whatever challenges that they thought they had, whether it was with their hair or skin or any of these areas. So I think that, and COVID is not over. Looks like we are still in the middle of multiple waves. So it'll be what will be interesting to see is will this accelerated growth in personal care, will that sustain, and what kind of new products can we bring to the user. And because they have now this both, I mean, from an India perspective, a new discovered aspiration for personal care, because personal care in India is a decade old in reality, right? So once they have seen this, will there be room to really help them explore a lot more, and can we be a lot more creative in what kind of personal care products that we can bring to the market? So that's the opportunity, I think, with COVID.
Got it. No, that's a good segue to and my next question. Like this whole sector is pretty early in India as compared to globally, and we see internet penetration being at a much higher rate than the BPC penetration. So, what does this change the way in which companies will be built, or any thoughts on that particular aspect? Maybe Darpan, we'll start with you. Maybe you can talk a little bit about your journey on the. You started out more with the BPC side, D2C with your MyGlamm, but then you've gone inorganic as well, right? So maybe talk about that, and then this intersection of internet penetration being higher and BPC. And Prashanth would love to come to you next on that. Yeah.
So Anand, I mean, how interesting a statistic is that? That more people have internet in their hands than they have a lipstick or a personal care product. That is just incredible. I mean, that just shows the opportunity that is in front of us. So what does that mean in terms of consumer behavior? First of all, the category itself, globally, beauty content is one of the most viewed content on social media. Hands down, right? It's beauty and then food recipes, right? By far the most viewed content by women, out there. So that is where intuitively women discover beauty, right? On their feed. The whole advent of influencers, right? The whole advent of celebrities on Instagram. And you're getting a peek into her life, right? Into the celebrity's life. And what is she wearing? What is she doing? What's her makeup like? What is the new product she's tried? So they know what's going on. Now combine that sort of consumer behavior truth with what you just mentioned, which is, there's more internet penetration in India than beauty personal care. It means all these women are anyway intuitively going to start discovering more and more beauty online on their social media. Once you start discovering it, and as we're seeing the GDP per capita in India is rising, the next step is going to be towards a transaction, wanting it, right? So when I earlier in the conversation, when I was talking about how we were really DTC, 95% of our orders on our own platform. The one thing I didn't mention, the big disadvantage of doing that is CAC. In 2019, I was spending more money than any of our peers in the BPC sort of new age brand segment in customer acquisition, simply because the transactions are happening on my platform versus others who are doing the transaction on an Amazon where it's much lower. The marketing cost is much lower. So towards the end of 2019, when we scaled up, we hit the 10 crore a month number, and we said, okay, now we've got great repeats, proof of concept, product market fit, everything, right? Let's go solve the CAC challenge. And what we realized was the way to solve the CAC challenge was this piece, which is where consumer discovers it, right? If we are able to make that your organic top of the funnel and then use data to very efficiently retarget a consumer, this could solve the CAC challenge for us. And we started to, aggressively look for, great content companies that we could acquire and bring within the group, within the overall group, right? COVID hit. We took this decision first quarter of 2020. We were starting to work on this. COVID hit. So a couple of months, everything got delayed. Getting things back into gear with the impact of COVID. And then in May of 2020, we started to aggressively look for these assets. The best asset out there was and still is PopExo. PopExo was one of the first female content platforms out there. PopExo started by Priyanka, who in my mind is probably one of the best editors, content personalities out there. She understands content better than anybody else that I have ever met. And she, what she had built out very successfully was it was not just reach through content, but she had built out an incredible social media reach. What she realized very early on compared to most other content companies was that it doesn't matter if you're getting the person to come to your platform. What matters is, do you appear on that person's feed every day? Because the woman is going on her feed every day. She's not necessarily going to a content platform every day specifically. And so she built out an incredible social media reach, leveraging the content that they created. And the other piece that she built out was, she built out Plixo, which was which is one of the first influencer management platforms in India. Priyanka herself was an influencer. So, it was all her peers that came together when they built this out. And Plixo, is one of the largest influencer management platforms and is one of the first that was out there. So, we did this acquisition around July, August. We integrated in September. And since then, we've only been our first month of Popexo integration. We acquired 60,000 new customers a month. Today, we acquired 250,000 new customers a month. That's 9 months. And I still feel we're scratching the surface, right? There is a lot more that we can go deeper in this. Few things here, right? What worked, and why it's just easy to talk about content to commerce, but why it's not that simple and why others have not been able to do it, right? First is, you need to have the social media reach. That is where the consumer is discovering you, right? When she goes to a content platform, her intent is very different. Her intent is not commerce. So getting her to transact there is quite hard. But if you have a large social media reach, it becomes much easier. Popexo, through their assets, they have a lot of handles. We have 25 million social media followers in India, right? That leads to the 60 million monthly active users that Popexo has. These are staggering numbers. And please note, these are females, right? Which is a great sort of a much harder subset to get here. Plixo has about 200,000 influencers onboarded on it, right? These influencers, we work with them to create great UGC, and helps build the brand, right? While Popexo helps you get the scale with 60 million MAUs for us. And I think that sort of, women are discovering beauty on social media. Are you able, and they want to learn. It's very, very clear. They want to learn more and more. Give them content that's useful. Be on a platform, on a social, on an Insta or a Facebook, or a platform where they're used to discovering beauty. You educate them, they discover you, and then you get the transaction done on your platform. And then there are influencers in the mix over here who accelerate some of that journey, both in brand building and reach. So that's sort of how, we feel that this phenomena of more internet versus beauty personal care today in India can truly be leveraged to unlock the true potential of BPC in India.
Thanks. That's a great summary. So Prashanth, I want to come to you. So if you look back the last decade and then if you look forward the next decade, how has this changed and what's your view on the future for, we can talk about first BPC and then broadly direct to consumer brands, right? So are there going to be some really large companies created in this category? So hopefully MyGlamm is one of them. And then just want to broaden it out a little bit. You've seen the market evolve.
Yeah, and the D2C, of course, you've seen the momentum there and the investor interest. It's almost creating a little bit of a mini bubble. Just the number of brands who seem to be able to very quickly get capital, and my own view is that there'll be consolidation. I think there is just way too many brands which don't have a specific strategy and are just too many Me Too brands, and which don't have the depth either in their ability to create that kind of user engagement or ability to do it cost effectively. So I think you will get, so it's very easy to get the first 1-2 crores because of the platforms that exist today, but that is not necessarily the way some of these brands can build out to become really large and scale. So my own view is that the next 2-3 years, maybe next couple of years, you'll still see a lot of this mushrooming, but very soon I think you will end up with 4 to 5 or maybe 10 large brands in India. in the BPC space. And these brands will also be regional. They will not be limited to India. So my view is that there are two axes you can go. One, you can go really mass in India, which is very difficult because it's still a lot offline, and that's where the power is with some of the traditional companies. So you can't just push that access too much. So then the Mastige plus that you've done, can you go really? Can you do better on the higher end in terms of cost engineering, true clean brands? Because I don't think we have put enough efforts into doing. I mean, we call a lot of stuff clean. Darpan would agree with me in India, which is globally wouldn't be benchmarked as clean. So I think if we want to be international, I think there's a lot of that product engineering work that Indian brands will have to do. But once they've done that, they can become regional powerhouses in Southeast Asia and beyond. So that is where I think a lot of the Indian brands will go. And then the third opportunity, like Darpan was saying, how do you tackle the next 100 million women or the next 100 million consumers of a face wash or something else on the BPC side or on the cosmetic side, right? So how do you engineer products for them? There'll be somebody who will engineer, and it'll be non-clean, but it'll be something that they will consume. And they will figure out how to distribute to them, where the PopXO model itself may be very different. The type of PopXO engagement and social media paradigm could itself evolve and change when you have to reach the next 100 million. So you will see some new brands maybe come up which will cater to that next 100 million demographic. Maybe so these three.
Got it. Darpan, any predictions, any thoughts from you on how this thing's going to play out in the next 5-10 years?
So I think I don't think we need to go as far as 10 years. I genuinely believe in the next 5 years, the next Marico, the next Dabur, the next Unilever is going to be a DTC CPG company. I genuinely believe that. It also ties into a little bit of what Prashanth said about consolidation, right, in there. But I think that is the opportunity. And that's not been built in India in the last 20 years. I mean, go on the stock exchange and you have the same 5 names that have been there for decades, right? And that is getting disrupted. I think everybody's shown that proof of concept with how quickly people have scaled up to 100 crores of revenue. I think if your strategy is correct for scale, if you've built it out correctly from a consumer lens, from a business lens, and have some key moats, I think there is a huge opportunity there. And I just have one prediction, which is that there is going to be a DTC CPG conglomerate, $5 to $10 billion market cap out there in under 5 years. You don't have to wait for 10 years for that.
Okay, that's great. Prashanth, any final words? And I'll come back to you, Darpan, for founders building in the space. What's your advice? Anything that you want to leave the audience with?
So Anand, the new founders coming into the space will have to be a lot more thoughtful and nuanced. I think the early low-hanging D2C kind of fruit has been harvested. Now they'll either have to see how they can be more relevant outside of India, and how can the product just not address a need here, but more outside India. So there'll be few brands that may come up which are global first, if there are entrepreneurs who are able to do something like that. So they should think about those kinds of opportunities, and also the opportunities for the next 100 million. What kinds of brands would work, and how do you reach them? Like Darpan said, it's not easy. It's not easy to do it in a cost-effective manner, and especially if it's a D2C brand. So what is that new formula to reach the next 100 million beyond the 50, 100 million that are today being addressed by the current brand? So some of these are opportunities for new entrepreneurs, and they should look at that rather than coming up just with more and more brands addressing the same 20, 30 million people.
More Me Too's will probably scale initially, but eventually cap out. So better to go the broad base figure out the D2C and especially the digital strategy to get a lot of data
Yeah, find new
and
new
trade in
new
them.
white spaces which will be
Yeah.
led by products that you think are differentiated. Yeah.
Got it. Cool. Darpan, any thoughts from you as someone who has done this? Yeah. And for the
I
next
think
budding Darpan, younger Darpan.
I,
Yeah.
I echo. I think Prashanth has captured how to strategically think about it. So I won't delve there. I just give a personal sort of two cents, which is you're going to find a lot of challenges along the way. For those who haven't started as yet, the first step is to take the plunge. So take the plunge, and once you've taken the plunge, you know just keep finding a way to stay in the game. That's it. You The longer you stay in the game, the higher your chances of your tipping point coming to you. There are going to be ups and downs. Things are going to change. You are going to run out of money. Things are going to be bad, and just find a way to stay in the game. That's it. And if you stay in the game long enough, your tipping point will come. That I am a complete believer in. For some, it comes in 3 years. For some, in 5. Some in 10. Some in 20. But if you're in the game for that long, it will come. And that's the only 2 cents I'd like to leave budding entrepreneurs with.
Awesome. That's a very encouraging note. So, thank you so much for taking the time today and sharing your story as well as a lot of deep thoughts and insights on the BPC space. Thank you, Darpan. Thank you, Prashant. I really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Anand. It was
Thank you
very,
for having
very
us.
Wow, that was a wide and far reaching conversation that I certainly enjoyed. Congratulations again to Darpan and to team on the fundraise. I hope it gives entrepreneurs who are innovating in this category something to think about. Thanks also to Prashant. Always a pleasure having my colleagues on this podcast. And thanks to you for listening. Please do tweet us at Accel_India. We'd love to hear from you if you have any feedback for us. Please subscribe to our podcast if you haven't already. Our website is seed2scale.com/insights, where you can find other such insightful episodes from our series. That's all from us today. Stay safe and sanitize. Thanks again for listening, and goodbye.